All right, if I hit all the right buttons, we are live now on YouTube. All right, so if you're joining me live, well, hello and welcome. Say a quick hi in the chat window. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to hit subscribe and click that bell so you're notified whenever I go live to cover Power BI topics like this and to answer your Power BI questions. So let's see. I'm going to say my hello to my Learn Power BI family on the phone. I have Eamon, Heather, Rochelle, Steve, as always, and Tom. And oh boy, it's so folks on the go-to meeting. I'm going to turn off screen sharing, so you might have to tune in on YouTube for the video. I apologize, but it's YouTube is complaining that the stream isn't doing very well. So I'm just gonna try to stop the video and see if that helps things. And if you are on YouTube, let's see who's hanging out with me today. All right, there we go. I found the window. Wow, we have a crowd. Let me go do this. Watch page. Perfect. All right. Hello from Iran. Hi from Saudi. That's great. From Paris. Jason says, lol. I must have missed something funny. Steve is, of course, here, our moderator. Arthur, good to see you back, my friend, from Poland. And Jeffrey is here, right here from, well, I'm not in Washington right now. I'm dialing in from India. I've been here on a month-long break, and it's been fantastic. It's been great. But today, I'm glad to be hanging out with you guys. And this is the new me. I'm talking about some stuff which I feel passionately about, but due to some reasons which I think I now understand, I have hesitated in talking about this. And the odd thing is that the same fear that was keeping me away is often what's keeping some of my followers from their success. And it's just, well, I mean, yeah, it's always scary to do something new, do something different, to believe in yourself, right? It's easy to kind of do the same old, but I'm gonna push past that just so. Otherwise, how can I ask you to do the same? Nolly says hello from Qatar. It's great. Vikas is here as well. So the topic today is how to get a Power BI job. I wasn't quite sure should I do like how to get your first Power BI job, but whether you are looking to get your first job and you want it to be a Power BI job, or you are looking to change streams. You were doing something else. Maybe it was nothing to do with BI or anything like that, but now you want to get a job in Power BI, or maybe you did have a job in kind of BI, data analytics, but you want your next job to be around Power BI. I think it's going to be helpful from all of those. It might not be, the session might not turn out to be what you expect. This is going to be a little bit different, but I think that's a good thing, because the same old, you've already heard that, right? Why would I come up here and repeat the same thing, the same advice? So as a prep to this session, I had asked on my Facebook, and I think YouTube, and maybe some other places, I forget now, maybe LinkedIn as well, that what is the one thing you think you can do to most improve your chances of getting a job? So I'd asked that, and so this for those who joined me last week. Last week was a similar topic, and that was how to become a Power BI consultant. And it was very ad hoc, and I wanted to be very conversational, and I'm hoping the same for this one. Although this one, I took some time to prep the slides. Last time we were just writing notes in a Word document. Frankly, I kind of prefer that way because it's just you and me talking. It feels more like that. Uh, so I know I'm showing you a PowerPoint slide deck, but I don't want it to feel that way. I want this to be a conversation. So how about some of you tell me that now I have the survey responses. So if you responded there, thank you so much. If you didn't, or if you don't mind typing it again, tell me what you think is the single most important thing you could do to improve your chances of getting a Power BI job. And I'm going to wait for your responses. I know there's a little bit of lag on YouTube, but yes, I'm just gonna do this awkward waiting period. So yeah, do reach up to your keyboard. I know, I mean, you never know where people are watching on YouTube. It could be your television set that would make it hard to type. But all right, so Rochelle, we have a response from our Learn Power BI family. Have a solid resume to showcase your skills. Let's see. Improve skills in current job. Actually start looking for one. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, you know, you're kind of in a job and you back of your mind like, oh gosh, I really should get. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a job out there which is, you know, I'm gonna enjoy doing and they're gonna value me more, they're gonna pay me more, all of those things. But you don't go out and look for those jobs. Sanjay says demo projects. Okay, cool. I'll look for one more. Come on, people. I know you're out there. Okay, stream health is good. Go ahead, type something in there. No? Hey, I don't want this to be me talking, so you're gonna have to work with me here. It's past 10:30. It's 10:38 now at night here. But I'm here for you guys. But this is gonna be a two-way thing. So one more response. All right, Sanjay. Well, okay, we'll count it. Sanjay says build contact in the same domain. Uh, good answers, fair answers. Kevin says, hey Kevin, good to see you here. Show them how you can provide information to improve sales profit. Wow, I mean, if you can do something directly to dollars, that's great, right? Uh, Ooh, Steve, that's a good answer. Volunteer to help a company and show them what you can do. That's good. That's good. I really appreciate that. So a teaser for something that I wanted to talk about in the end, which is something you should be doing even before you start your job hunt. So we'll talk about that. I really think that's pretty important as well, but it doesn't quite fit in the flow, so I'll save it for later. So what is the one thing you can do to most improve your chance of getting a job? The survey responses we got focused around three areas. A couple of people mentioned DAX, like, oh, we gotta get good at DAX. Some people were asking, like, oh, do I need to be a DAX expert? Then there was this general bucket about getting better at Power BI, showing them portfolio, building dashboards. At least two comments were about certification, the exams 77, 78. And I think some people had the same thing. They were asking, like, do you think that's it? We'll talk about that. And the third bucket was kind of hands-on experience. So that's pretty good. But I'll tell you the single most important thing you can do is you can burn your resume. All right. So I know it goes counter to what you may be thinking, but hear me out. All right. So for one, this is the standard approach that we have followed for a long time, haven't we? I mean, we just this is how you job hunt, right? You search for jobs online. There's Indeed.com, Monster.com, and whatever the new thing is, and then you find those jobs. You apply online. Cross your fingers. It feels like a black hole. You do that for a long time, and I don't know, 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000, you get called in. Phone interview, and again, that's a percentage game as well. If you're going to do 10 phone interviews, you hope two or three of them call you for an in-person interview. You go through enough interviews, one of them has to hire you, right? But of course, that strategy actually hasn't worked for a long time because things have changed on how companies hire. And right, so companies nowadays do as much as they can to put roadblocks in front of you so that frankly, in a way, they don't have to deal with you, right? And whoever can jump through those hoops, they're willing to entertain you. So, for one, can anybody guess or tell me that? Oh gosh, yeah, the video is slightly problematic. It's going in and out. Let's see. All right, so I'm watching the stream status, and yeah, it flicks to bad sometimes, and then it goes good again. So uh, I'll cross my fingers too and see how that goes. So let's see. Can anybody say when they're screening resumes? Well, now, if you're lucky enough that a real person is seeing your resume. Now, of course, most of the companies these days are sifting them through some software that they have. So a real human might not even read your resume. But if a real human reads your resume, what do you think is the average time they spend on one resume? Just take a guess. Oh, wow, Steve is really close. 10 seconds. Rochelle said the same thing. Um, yeah, the number I read was 6 seconds. And yeah, I mean, 6 seconds, 10 seconds, lower. I feel like it's drifting lower now. Who knows? Maybe it's drifting up now because a lot of them are screened out by the online software anyway, right? So the human is looking. Maybe they're looking at less resumes now. So maybe it has gone up from 6 to 10 seconds, but it's a really short amount of time, so you can spend all the time there, and that's what I was doing. And this is pretty much the exact same format that I have followed to find my jobs. And you can kind of say that it worked. I mean, you can say, oh, it worked for me. I mean, it worked for me, right? I mean, I found all my jobs. I worked at Lucent, I worked at AOL, I worked at Washington Mutual, I worked at Microsoft, and similar format worked for me. But things have changed, my friend, right? So, and we'll talk about that. So, you can fight this fight, but frankly, if this process was working for you, you wouldn't be here. Right? I mean, because this is the standard thing. If this is what you wanted to hear from me, then really you don't need to hear this from me. I mean, you already know this stuff. Everybody knows this stuff. Now, you can try to perfect this thing, and you can say, oh, here are 10 tips to build resumes, and sure, I can talk about that. I can talk to you about interview strategies and all of those, but I think all of that is not the best approach. The best approach is to change the rules of the game, because that's what the employers have done to you. They have changed the rules of this game. It used to work this way, it doesn't anymore. So resumes don't work. So what does work? So one of my favorite books, it's a job hunting book, but it's a career guidebook. It guides you about your career, building a career, not just finding your next job. And even more, it's a life guidebook. This is one of my favorite all-time books, and I'm really in awe of this author, Richard Bolles, and he has been writing this book every year for like, I don't know, like 25 years, and it's always at the top of the kind of the best-selling lists. It's a classic. It's a classic, and of course he refreshes it every year, so you get the latest information. I highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, if you're gonna buy one book, buy this one, right? Now, in that book, there's a graph. There's this pyramid, which shows how people look for jobs and how employers actually hire for jobs. And and again, it's not for I mean it's not for everybody, but many people job hunt the exact opposite way of how the jobs get filled. Right? So if you look here at the bottom is oh, hold on, I need my draw thingy. Is resume. And we spend so much time. Oh, I remember when I was starting a job, like first thing was, ooh, I'm gonna build my resume and update my resume, and I would take, I don't know, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, sometimes more. So just update my resume. Oh yeah, I have to update my resume. And we put so much focus there and so much attention, and then we're hunting around on these job sites, Indeed, Monster, and all of that stuff. And I guess this is the same thing nowadays. There's no job agency anymore. And we're not so networking. I think we at least pay lip service to networking, so we do a little bit of that. But then we'll talk about this. So number two is using proof. Using proof. Show them that hey, I've done this before. Look at me, right? So before that, having a friend say that, yep, I know Avi. Yeah, he's he's great at Power BI. And the number one is from within, and that can be an employee or that can be a contractor. So of course Steve was talking about that, just volunteer at a company. So we'll dive into this a little bit more step by step. So I'm not going to talk about 1, 2, 3, right? I mean, if you really want kind of resume slash interview tips from me, those are valid questions. I'll be happy to talk about that. But I don't think that's where the value add is, right? There are many places you can learn that. I'm happy to share my tips, and of course, this book has those tips as well, and really good ones too. But so let's start. I'm just gonna focus on the top three. So let's start at number three, which is basically networking, right? So where's my thing? Oh gosh, Kevin is saying the first edition actually came out in 1970. That's pretty crazy. So let's talk about networking, and again, I want this to be conversational. So I want to ask you, what are your tips about networking? How do you network? And again, it's one of those things I wouldn't claim to be very good at. It was always like, oh gosh, yeah, I got to network, and then I was hunkered down on my desk just working all day, and I don't know, I mean, yeah. So, and would have these. I have some ideas which I've picked up from others, and I have some thoughts around it. But I want to, hear from some of you here. So let's see. Let's go into notes mode and LinkedIn. Cool. Tell me a little bit more. How do you network on LinkedIn? Just spam everybody, like send them invites. I mean, do you have a specific strategy? Hashtag networking work synergy. Yeah, Sam, tell me a little bit more about that. Meetups. Yeah, so boy, Power BI user groups are amazing, and I love hanging out at our Seattle group whenever I can. So that one is bingo. So, so that one is great. Um, tell me more. Let's see. User groups. Yep. User groups. Internal MS Teams. Internal MS Teams help people in your organization. Ooh. Um. Uh. Uh. Yeah. So some of the best opportunities are within your own organizations, but you gotta break outside of your team. So Pam Baker. So for those of you who follow my channel, which I hope is all of you, right? Uh, we interview and we showcase folks who inspire me, frankly, and I then showcase the stories in the hope that they inspire others as well. Now, there's one story of Pam Baker, and she talks about how she was essentially an accountant for 15 years, and now she's this worldwide phenomena inside Volvo, where people seek her out across the world. So, yeah, pretty amazing story. And yeah, so within your organization, so you got to break out of your small team. If you're like just manager, colleagues, kind of water cooler stuff, no, reach out to teams you have never worked with, you have never talked with. And yeah, so you can, by the way, you can go to playlists and find the interviews there. I just wanted to point out. Gosh, there are only 13. There should be really more because there's so many superstars.
Power BI.
Within our That's Steve Ross. That's the last interview. Who's moderating today's call? Oh, we don't need that. All right, great. So let's see. User groups, internal MS Teams. I'm not sure. Is there something which Microsoft you connect with Microsoft Teams? I'm not sure. What's meant of that? So far saying, what is Power BI syllabus? I'm new to Power BI. Hang on, my friend. We are not quite there yet. Maybe we'll cover that. Um, all right, cool. So good ideas. LinkedIn. I didn't get a follow up on that. LinkedIn. I do believe in LinkedIn. It's powerful. People have. Yeah, maybe we'll talk about it. So I think this one is definitely golden. Now, here's the thing about networking. So this was one of my friends who was between jobs, right? That's the thing to say, right? So between jobs, and I think I met him or I called him up, and I said, "Hey, buddy," I think I met him, and so I put my hand on his shoulder. "Hey, buddy, are you networking? Because I hear that's one of the best ways to get a job." And he put a hand on my shoulder and he said, "Avi, you don't network when you're looking for a job. When you're looking for a job, you're just looking for a job. You network when you have a job." And man, I think that is really good advice in two ways. All right, so let's write that. You network when you have a job. Oops, I didn't mean to. Not when you're looking for a job. So what do you think about that? I think that's true. That the right time to network is when you have a job, when you're not looking for one. Then there's no pressure. You're just meeting on kind of equal terms, and you just say, "Hey, yeah, let's meet up. Oh, yeah, how are things in your? Oh, man, that's interesting. Yeah, this is what I'm doing on my side, right?" So it's kind of a equal footing conversation. When you're looking for a job, and then you go try to network with somebody, and it devolves into, "Yeah, yeah, man, I'm looking for a job. Do you have anything?" I mean, no, I'm making it sound really bad, but it's in the back of your mind, even if it doesn't come out that way. So that's valid. But I would say that even if you are looking for a job, when you network, when you try to network, keep that thing in mind that you're meeting them on equal footing. You're not you don't be in that begging mode. Just if it's in your head, if you're thinking about it, if you're thinking about it that way, that, "Oh, I need a job. Oh gosh, can somebody give me a job?" It'll come across that way, and it'll come across needy. And this is what's going to happen. That somehow it'll come across, maybe in your tone. Maybe you wouldn't even use any words like that, but in your tone it'll come across, right? What 70-90% of communication is nonverbal, and it's going to turn people off. So they might not say yes to your networking meeting, or when they meet you they might cut it short or whatever, or something like that. So if you are looking for a job and trying to network, make sure you meet them on an equal footing. And for that, I discovered this word at Microsoft, and they called it an informational meeting. So before this, now that I've discovered informational meetings, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's what I want." But before that, I didn't know something like this. So if I was looking for a job, I would just talk to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Would you mind meeting with me for 15 minutes?" And it just never worked well. So at Microsoft, there was this concept of informational meeting. And again, as I was saying earlier, you want it to be on an equal footing. You're not asking for anything. So this is saying, "Hey, would you be open to having for so you can ask anybody within Microsoft for an informational meeting, and that's just basically you asking them tell me more about your role, tell me about your organization, and then you tell them a little bit about yourself, and you can ask them for advice. But again, the tone is different. You're not asking them for a job, and everything flows a lot more smoothly in that way. When the pressure is not on them, like, if you're like, oh gosh, this guy is looking for a job, I don't have a job, I don't want to give him a job, I don't know, if the pressure is not on them, then they're actually more forthcoming in helping you. Then they might actually say, oh yeah, I do know that group, and they are hiring, and whatever you told me is a great fit. Uh, so it's kind of hard to network when you don't have a job, when you're looking for a job. But yeah, use this informational meeting tool. Sometimes just a slight word shift can change the way you think. That's the most important part, and then that sets the tone of the meeting too. Okay, let's talk about the next two. How are we doing in time? Okay, 30 minutes in. Cool. So some good ideas here. So both of these essentially are talking about you having done some Power BI work. So number two is saying use proof. Like, oh, here, look, I did this for this company, and this were the results, and blah, 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 and all of that story, right? And this one is saying that you have actually done it for the company as a consultant, as an employee, and you say, yep, I did it for that team, and I should be promoted, I should be given more responsibility in Power BI, all of that stuff, right? So, but the challenge is that actually, I have a segue slide. Now, kind of a side story, but it applies here. So this I picked up somewhere in the literature from the Project Management Institute, PMI, and they said, oh, they did a whole study, like, what's the indicator? What's the one thing that is the biggest indicator, right? The highest correlation and all that stuff, which says that this project is going to be successful. And what they found was simply that the team has worked on a similar project before, right? So if somebody has built a bridge before, guess what? I mean, amongst all things equal, I mean that team would be more likely to succeed. So essentially, that's what these people are asking, right? I mean, they are saying that, oh, I mean, we won't hire you if you've already done this thing. So it makes sense, right? I mean, it makes sense. That is a very good indicator of success. But that becomes a challenge for a lot of people. Why? Because it's chicken and egg, right? Let me know if any of you are in this situation where you're like, yeah, I want a Power BI job, but they're all asking me to have done this before, and unless somebody gives me an opportunity, how would I get to prove myself? Mm. All right, you tell me what ideas do you guys have to solve this chicken and egg? You need a job to get a job. The best ways to get a Power BI job is to have done one if you had one. But how do you solve the chicken and egg? So Sanjay says he's going through that right now. Let's see. All right, so I want some of your ideas. John, I think, is saying demo projects, push to get one of each. I'm not sure. Okay, so like a demo project, simulation project, a demo project. Um, I'll stick with the word demo project. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair idea. I think somebody has suggested in the survey to go through the Power BI report gallery, look through the other projects that other people have done, and kind of use that, build something like that, and showcase that there. Now that's valid. John is saying you gotta build a portfolio. Now, I mean, when I hear portfolio, it's just like a group of projects. You can show a few things. So maybe, and it's hard to do these things where where you don't have a job. I mean, how many projects are you gonna build? But yeah, I mean, at least one, maybe more. Uh, Sam is saying solve the bigger problems. Uh, I hear ya, but yeah, frankly, when you don't have a job, it's kind of like you're working in a vacuum. So what are you really trying to solve? Public data sets. Yep. So kind of portfolio of that. It's yeah, public data sets. Uh, so Steve is saying real project that adds value makes manager's job easier and look good to the boss. Ooh, I kind of like that. So maybe Steve didn't mean it this way, but if you have a job, any job, right, and it's not about Power BI, it has nothing to do with Power BI, nobody around you uses Power BI, then uh, one of my life mottos is ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And believe me, I've done that. You can go ahead and just build something in Power BI, right? So your role has nothing to do with Power BI, but as long as you have a role, then you can build something there. Now, if you don't have any kind of job, then it's a bit challenging. Then you fall back to one of these approaches where you just use a public data set or something like that, demo project. Power BI is free to use, not expensive. You can download it and make something useful. Jen is saying that's what she did. I think she's talking about this one, knowing her, that yep, she just went ahead and built something, and that's what I did too, by the way. Yeah, I mean, they didn't want me using Power BI. I fought an uphill battle within Microsoft to convince them to use Power BI. Long story. Um, let's see. Any other ideas? Oh gosh, this thing. Yeah, so Heather is saying she created stuff for her household, you know, demo projects. Mm, then Rochelle is saying, yeah, you can do what I did at my current company. I told somebody on my team I had completed this program. She's talking about the Learn Power BI program that we have, and now she has been, given Power BI projects to work on. So yeah, so if you so let's see, I had some other ideas, so I want to explore this a little bit more. So I will say that this is good for a fallback option. I am personally not a huge fan of this. Anytime where you're working kind of by yourself, kind of public data set, to me that feels like hitting the tennis ball against a wall. And sure, your forehand and backhand is going to improve a little bit, but it's nothing like a real tennis match, right? So a real tennis match has some sort of a client, and you're going back and forth, and you can't simulate that. There's no way to simulate that except to have a real client. Now, if you don't have a job, one thing that, believe it or not, has worked is friends and family. That can include your own household. Maybe your spouse has a different job and she has her data sets or something. Your spouse is running a business or whatever. It can be that. It can be your close friend. I've heard stories where there's somebody in the family was running a chain of convenience stores and they built something for them. So you can do something like that. Now, of course, the big question there is, do you ask them for money or not? I'll answer that later if you really have that question. And what else? I think Steve was talking about kind of volunteering somewhere and non-profit organizations, maybe a good opportunity. So again, anything where you can get like a more a real project, not realistic, right? So instead of you just going out to the public data set, oh, this is the world population. Let me see what kind of interesting. Oh, this is the airline departure and arrival, and let me see what kind of cool stuff I can come up with. I mean, it's valid, it's okay, but it just doesn't work for me. I mean, I really think that even a very complicated demo versus a very simple project with a real client, I would always take that. Always, always, always. There's so much to learn in there. So there are ways to do that, right? So you can just go ahead and do it in your own company. You can work with friends, family. You can volunteer nonprofit. Let's see if there are any other comments here. Yeah. So yeah, and once you do that, then you can use that as proof. There's a whole bunch of stuff there though. That how do you show it? You have to be in the storytelling mode. Problem, action, result, BAR. That should be the classic format. It works. So you describe the problem. Hey, this is what we're trying to solve. This is what I did. These were the results. So yeah, so you do it and then you tell it, share it in an effective way. To build out. Eamon is saying build out 5+ dashboards. Oh wow! So it's I think Eamon is sharing his portfolio. He built out 5 dashboards, inventory, HR, financials, together with video attached, explaining how each works and talking about the rationale behind. Okay, that's pretty impressive. Mm, yeah, so that's yeah, some good ideas there. So I'll share with you if that's okay with you guys. I'll share you how I'm trying to solve it for our Learn Power BI family because I think this challenge just frustrates me. This chicken and egg. I want to just crack it open. All right. So within the Learn Power BI family, and hey, I would assume that everybody who's on the phone with me, they have heard of Real Power BI, but I just want to see a few a yes or no. Tell me if you have heard of Real Power BI or not. So just type in a Y or an N, and I'll just go by whatever the first few responses are. So Heather, Steve, of course, they're saying yes. They're part of the course. John is saying no. Dennis is saying no. Great. So I think some of you may be new. So Real Power BI. Gosh, what is my next slide here? It's a really simple idea. I go ask people that, hey, do you have a real business problem that you would like to be solved using Power BI? All right. Now, if you go search on my channel, you would find a little bit of stuff there, not too much, and I'll tell you why. Because for one, it is run inside the class setting. So it's there's some aspects which I share on YouTube, but it's mostly run inside the class. Oh boy, this thing is slow. But yeah, if you search for something like real, so there have been, I think, just 2 projects. One with Kimberly Marie, who was really amazing, and another with Lisa. Yeah, Lisa Randall. Uh, right. So again, let's come back to our slides. So real business projects. So they have like, oh, yep, I have this data. I'm trying to do this, and I need some help. It's a mess right now, and nothing is working. Standard story, right? Mm, and then so we solicit Power BI projects, and often we get multiple submissions. So whenever we go out and say, hey, we're doing the next real Power BI project, and if you want your thing solved by or our team of students, then submit it here. But then we select a project, and then we work on the project. This should be singular in a class setting. Oops. Yeah, there we go. In class setting, and then well, we kind of have a final project presentation. So this, I realized that if I tweak this slightly, we can make it work. So the tweaking that we need is to remove me as the bottleneck, because I have been running, or I've been kind of crucially involved in both of these projects. So what I want to do is, when we solicit projects, we get a whole bunch. Let's say we get 10 projects. Now we're going to filter out some. They're not I don't know. I mean, they don't look good. I mean, you look at the submissions and they're like, well, I'm not sure if this person is committed. They haven't really provided much information. Blah blah blah. Their data set looks really funky. What's going on? Or something that's overly complicated. We don't want to do a 6-month project on this, right? So let's say we get 10 projects and we filter 5. Now earlier we used to do one of them. We selected one, and frankly, my pace was we have done one project every 2 months. So in the last 4 months, we've done two. But what I want to do is from these 5, sure, one I'll still do and I'll lead that, but the other 4 are going to be candidate projects that our Learn Power BI class members can lead. And so for those of you who are part of the program or they're already familiar with this, but I'll just run through this really quickly. Uh, let's go this way. Yeah. So obviously, I'm here hanging out with you guys. I'm always going to be on YouTube. We have we have our tutorial here, and we post new videos there. Learn Power BI is our structured step-by-step course. So if you want to, like a structured program, and of course that comes with the membership in the awesome Learn Power BI family. So you're part of the community. You get to hang out. You get to connect. You get to network. We were talking about networking earlier. And ask questions, get help, all this sort of stuff. And within Learn Power BI, there's also a pro level membership and Pro Plus. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So we'll probably, when we expand the real Power BI, where we have students leading it as well, we'll probably start that at the pro level, just because it's a smaller group of people, and so I can make sure that they're getting all the attention and help as they need. So I just want to share that with you. That's what I've been thinking about and refining. This has been kind of a workation. I'm in India for a month, kind of on a break, but as I said, it's been a bit of a workation where I've been just kind of thinking about this idea. So that's the latest that I have. And of course, for those of you who did join me last week, we do have something exciting for coming for January 2019, which is we're launching something kind of the next level of this Pro Plus. And the goal here is frankly to create more amazing people like you've seen on my channel. So it's a beta program. The working title right now is 6-figure Power BI consultant, which it's that's the working title. It's going to be priced at $19.95. It's going to be a 3-month program, and it's a beta, but that's a good thing, because it's guaranteed to be a small group. I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, if it's 2 or 3, that's probably the perfect size. It's going to be application based, so we're going to have you apply, and we'll take kind of the right candidates, because we want to start this off on the right foot, because you will be leaving this template for whoever else comes into this program following this. So we'll be kind of doing this stuff for our class to solve that problem for the class. But oh boy, why am I not plugged in? Oh, there we go. I should take care of that. I think I'm plugged in now. Perfect. But all the other ideas we discussed today, those are still valid, and I would definitely encourage you to pursue that. I mean, if you can find a project within your company, go for it. If you can find it within friends and family, or go ask somebody if you can help them. And if none of that works, then sure, find a public data set and see what you can come up with that. All right, let's see. So let's how we do in time. 11:15. All right. Let's talk about. I was gonna say one. So let's kind of wind up. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to hang on and answer about this, or just a general Power BI question. There was one thing that I had shared earlier, which I had said that this is something that everybody should be doing all the time. I think this is like the single most important thing. I think this is my like best advice that I can give you is in this day and age, everybody should have a social presence. And I put slash public because I've met folks, MVPs and other professionals who don't quite have a social presence, but they're on the conference circuit. They always speak in conferences, and people know them through that. Um, I think that's a little bit old school. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, great. But if you're starting out right now, you're probably better off building your social presence on one of the social networks. Pick one, whichever works for you. Uh, I generally recommend LinkedIn to everybody because LinkedIn doesn't have that the social media chicken and egg problem. Like if you start a blog, you start a YouTube channel, Facebook page, Instagram channel, whatever, then it's like, oh, I'll post, but I don't have any followers, and why should I post if I don't have any followers? And if I don't post, how will I get followers? But LinkedIn, everybody already has a network, so that's the number one thing you can do, and it helps in so many ways. So I'm glad. Obviously, some of you had the same idea when we talked about networking. You talked about LinkedIn, uh, and I think LinkedIn is a great platform to establish that social presence. So get active there. I did have some other random thoughts. Oh, there was this thing. Oh, did I not clean it up? Sorry. Let me clean this up a little bit. Mm, So there was this whole thing about certification or experience. Do I need the certification? I'll tell you that I'm not a huge fan of that. So we did a survey. We did it on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. You can see the Facebook results here, and I know it's a little bit anecdotal, but I mean, I think we got a good sample set here, sample size, and same for LinkedIn. And there was one comment by Peter, one of our Learn Power BI family members, which was very insightful, where Peter said that, oh, I live in a town which has 5 MVPs, and the number of certifications that they have, I can count them on a single hand or something like that. So basically saying that, yeah, these MVPs don't seem to care about certifications, and the certification that I have is MCSD, but you know when I got that? I got that when I just got out of college and I didn't have a job. If you think about it, when are the two times when people think about certifications? When they're when they're looking for a job or when they're looking to switch their career, right? So it's one of those weird things. Like, why would you only want to get it then, right? And right, so it's not that it's of no value at all, but if it's about cost of opportunity. If you would spend 1 month preparing for a certification and clearing that, getting that, what else could you do in that month? Could you work on a real project? If you could, then I would say that would be your much better way to spend your time. Cool. Mm, so some of you were so I really feel that technical skills are a given now. I mean, you can't really compete without technical skills, and really you shouldn't have any excuse because there's so much training available. I mean, of course, I'll pitch my own course that I have my own course, and it's a 6 module, really compact course, 10 hours, focuses on the 20% that gives you the 80% of the results, very hard hitting. So it's easy to pick up technical skills. So really, if you want to compete, you're gonna have to need a differentiator, and this is where you need something else, something different, and it could be the real world experience. It could be your storytelling skills. Like somebody else could walk in with a real world experience, but you might be able to tell your story in a more effective way. This, or things like that, right? So that's that. And a lot of people ask me, so I think somebody earlier was asking about, oh, what's the Power BI syllabus? Which are the topics I need to cover? And of course, some of the very popular videos out there are Power BI interview questions, and I've thought about doing one like that too. But really, my feel is that unless you're looking for a starter job, only then I think the focus of your interview would be on technical questions, where they would ask you like DAX questions and M questions and all that sort of stuff. Anything beyond that, at least smart employers shouldn't be asking you kind of a lot of DAX and M question. I mean, sure, a little bit of screening to screen out folks who don't know what they're talking about, but beyond that, smart employers, the good ones, should be focusing more on kind of problem solving and a little bit more in depth. Like, do you understand data modeling, not just not just technical trivia. I've seen questions like that, like, "Ooh, what happens if you do this and then and put this in calculate?" Like, I don't think that stuff matters as much as you would think. Mm, and of course, I've also noticed a really odd thing. Well, it's true. So this is not for everybody. A lot of places you go in, and they would know what they're talking about, and they would, if you don't give them the right answer, they would know, right? But a lot of times, if they're looking to hire somebody in Power BI, it's possible that they themselves don't have the know-how. Um, yeah, but I really feel it's less about the technical skills. I mean, you got to have the technical skills, the concepts, but not the trivia stuff. You don't feel like you need to know everything in Power BI. It's all just not possible. All right, guys, I apologize. It's late, but on my side, so I rambled on for a little bit. But I want to hear from you if you had any thoughts that you wanted to share. If there was anything specific which you agreed with or did not agree with in the session today, and if you had something that you would like to share with the rest of the community. And let's see if I can go. So folks who are on the phone, yeah, you can go ahead and just speak up if you like.
Hey, Avi, can you hear me?
Yeah, Eamon, right?
Uh, yeah. 10 out of 10 for great memory. Just a couple of things that you mentioned. I'm just going to sort of reiterate a couple of things briefly. Is
Yeah.
I suppose one thing I've noticed if you are looking online from a role perspective
Mm-hmm.
is, and I'm not sure what your take on this is, but I'll throw it out there, is that many times companies need somebody who is incredibly competent at Power BI because they want to build out sort of models that they can actually use within the business. What I find
Yeah.
though is Power BI kind of gets lost in a kitchen sink mentality because not alone are they saying they want Power BI, but they want a whole lot of other IT skills in addition.
Yeah.
Um, and so certainly from my perspective, I've noticed that almost excludes you from a lot of stuff. And I think
Yeah.
it's because honestly, I do think it's because a lot of companies don't get what it is they're trying to hire. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're asking for way too much. That would be my first comment. I suppose
Mm-hmm.
second thing would be this is I'm totally on board with what you say about having working on real live challenges
Yeah.
rather than just regurgitating stuff, like dashboards
Mm-hmm.
that you can sort of, you know, basically build out for a second and third time.
Yeah.
I think actually working on real data is so important because what you need to do to massage that to
Mm-hmm.
allow you actually build out the sort of models that you want to build out that the client needs is incredibly
Yeah.
different to just regurgitating stuff. But one last thing I will say is this is proof of concept is a bit of a challenge in as much as even though I've done a lot of it, it's very difficult to share very sensitive information from clients you've actually worked on. And
Yeah.
that would be a big challenge. So therefore, you're almost forced to go down the route of, here's 5 or 7 or 10 dashboards I've built out. And then,
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned in my note, I think on YouTube was, and here's a video explaining, a 5-minute
Yeah.
video explaining how all of this works. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so click here, this does that, and this
Yeah.
integrates, and this takes you to the next page, etc., etc. And then for those that want to see, do you actually understand, why you're using particular M code and why you're using particular DAX and Are you using virtual tables and virtual relationships? And while you're doing that, it's a second video within the dashboard. So, as much as I would prefer not to go down the route of sending sort of a pre-prepared, it's
Yeah.
that you can't share easily highly sensitive information on companies that you have actually worked with. And you may have a comeback on that. And please, I'd love to hear it, because
Yeah.
I'm forced to go down that route, not because I choose to, only
Yeah.
because sharing sensitive information from companies would not be appreciated.
Yeah. So you're sharing screenshots of dashboards with the video, right? And
Well, actually, I'm just videoing it. Like I'm just sort of essentially build out. I let's say so. I'll give you an example. So I've built out a um, building out financial statements within, because I'm a
mm-hmm.
finance guy. Building out
Yeah.
financial statements within Power BI isn't particularly easy just using the current Power BI capabilities. But once you start
Mm-hmm.
building out templates and sort of integrating templates with using switch true statements and all that sort of stuff, you can
Yeah.
actually get Power BI to present information in particular formats,
Mm-hmm.
which from a P&L, cash flow, and balance sheet perspective are really useful, really, really
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah.
So you build that out, and then you actually go through a video and saying, look, if you this is how it works. So you're taking them through, because a lot of people, let me back up, and sorry
Mm-hmm.
for taking a lot of time here, but
No, no, it's
I
good.
think is that certainly my interaction within the business world, and to some extent in the not-for-profit world,
Mm-hmm.
is you have to be very careful what you assume, because I've actually, and I think of a couple of not-for-profits where I've built out, I would say, some incredibly advanced dashboards, and
Yeah.
I'm figuring out is that you're assuming too much, even with them getting them to download
Yeah.
Power BI. So it's almost
Yeah.
like I figured out, after doing this maybe 3 or 4 times, is you almost have to talk them through it. It's like,
Yeah.
guys, I need you to download this, and this is a trial version of PowerBI.com, such
Yeah.
that when I send you a link, you can't break anything, but
Yeah.
it will take you to the page. And on that page will be a dashboard and a
Mm-hmm.
video. And the
Yeah.
video will explain precisely what this dashboard is doing. And if you're really interested, which is more for the techies, this is why
Mm-hmm.
we use the this is why we built out, we did stuff like table deaggregation and composite keys in M code, and then we stepped in and did this within the DAX model. This is why
Mm-hmm.
we did it. They're two
Yeah.
very separate videos. Does that make sense?
Um, it does, but frankly, that's what I've generally seen. Yeah, I mean, so
Okay, go
so
on. Yes, please.
here's one thing that I was feeling when you talked about. Oh gosh, which part? Oh yeah, the kitchen sink. Let's go back to that and let's see if we can connect it to that. So this kitchen
Sure.
sink thing, right? I mean, the employers, yeah, they often don't really know, don't understand what this is. So they think it's like the next step in the IT guy. It isn't. So there was this IT guy who knew a little bit of SharePoint, knew SQL. Not to undermine that. I mean, those are great skill sets, and that's really cool. But this is not the next version of that, and that's
Totally agree.
they make
Totally
it
agree.
like that. Like, oh yeah, now you got to know Power BI. So I feel sometimes really lucky, and that I'm in that kind of consultant, that freelancer role, because all I want to do is build Power BI models day in and day out, right? I just want to, clean up the data in the query editor and then bring them in, create relationships, create measures, create visualization, and of course go back and forth with the users on that. But that's it. I don't want to really deal with anything else, and kind of beyond that. But in a full-time role, that may be hard. There may be few organizations who, of course, the organization has to be big enough to need a person who does it full time. But that's not the problem. The problem is that e- e- very few of such organizations would recognize the need for that and would really hire just for that. So, yeah, I think the reality is you would get stuff like this. Yeah, you were gonna say something?
I was just going to say, you're totally right. Is that honestly, if you're going to do this at a high level, you have to do it, in my view, as a consultant, or you have to
Yeah,
be in such a large organization that you can do just this, but for
yeah,
various aspects of the business. And I think it's the former rather than the latter. So I think going down the consulting route,
yeah,
if what it is you want to do is what you're talking about, which is building out models that are elegant and
yeah.
actually solve a real business problem. I don't mean
Hmm.
I don't mean a buzzword of business intelligence. I mean real business intelligence, where people, and I
Absolutely.
really that because I hear that it's a buzzword used by a lot of consultants. It's like, give me a break with this nonsense. It says, is it real business intelligence? Because if it
Yeah,
is, I'll
yeah,
have it every day, twice on Sundays. And if it's
yeah.
not, and many times it's not, then it's
Hmm.
like it's a buzzword. But so I think you do have to almost go down the consulting route if you want to do this at a high level and get involved in sophisticated models that are actually very, very meaningful to a business.
Yeah, I mean, I've come across people who have been able to pull off, and they just had really favorable their organization that understood. So I think there is an opportunity, but consulting, I mean, you kind of call the shots a little bit more. And if somebody is in a job, then I would repeat my earlier statement, which is ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And I've also seen that and kind of done that as well, where people their official role wasn't to be the Power BI guy, but they just became that because they would just go on and on. I mean, they would just build a Power BI model and then go talk to that team and show this in this demo and show this in that all hands meeting and then be asked by this team, and they just kind of became that. And the manager kind of said, "Oh, well, I guess yeah, you're doing it for this team." So um, you can you can just shape your role that way. I think that was so. Of course, now I'm not a full-time employee, but now when I look back at my all the years that I had a full-time job, I think that was this missed lesson that I didn't realize how much leeway you have in shaping your role. You have a lot more leeway uh, than you think. I mean, it feels like no, no, my manager told me to do this. Yeah. So yeah. So I think it's possible, but consulting does put the reins in your hand. So let's kind of take that thing. Uh, so. Uh, when I was thinking about this, the proof of concept, and certainly I totally agree with you. You gotta go at their pace, and I would like to think that I've gotten better at that. But I know there was one phase where I was just messing things up because I could see 5 steps ahead. So kind of like in a chess game, like 5 steps ahead, and I would like, oh, you don't just see, you got to do this. But they didn't see because they were not seeing 5 steps ahead. They were still focused on this very next step in front of them, and they were stuck there. And that didn't help. So I've trained myself to kind of match them at their pace. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, you're not doing it for yourself. I'm doing it for the company, for the client. Um, so yeah, you gotta go at their pace. Um, but coming back here, frankly, if the data you mentioned the sensitivity of the data, but I mean, I just blur things out if it's video or screenshots, or you can blur things out. You can of course use mock data. You can you can take the data and reduce it to such a small set, like just show 1 day's worth of data or something like that, to the point where it's nonsensical. um, so so getting over sensitive data, there are a few different ways. mm, but but I'm not really sure what stage is this targeting. I mean, this is obviously not your first communication with them, right? So this feels to me like before an in-person interview or during an in-person interview is when I would share this stuff. Is
I
that is
think,
that what you had in
yeah,
mind?
no, totally. No, I
Yeah.
think honestly, I think with sensitive data, I do think if you're going to share it, then it has to be just sort of face to face. And it's really just to say, look, here's some of the stuff I've built out. Here's how it works.
Yeah,
And like, and to get back to your, I think you used PAR. Here was the problem. Here's what we
yeah,
did,
problem
and
action
here was the
results.
result. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think, yeah, no, for sure. So, but if, and again, I suppose it's coming back more to the consulting side of things. It's very difficult
yeah,
to share the really meaty stuff that you've done, only
yeah,
because the certainly, as I say, I may be out of touch here, but being not being able to share what I believe is very sensitive data. But I take your point. Perhaps shrink it down a little bit. Um,
yeah, I think you're overthinking it because
Possibly. Yeah.
so you're gonna meet two kinds of people generally. One who are not really gonna know Power BI, and that's typical, right? So I remember my Microsoft interview loop where I met one person who vetted my SQL skills, another person who focused on kind of like leadership, another focus on problem solving, things like that, right? So you would meet the one kind of person who would not really know about Power BI. Anything detailed would be lost on them. So you wanna be more in the storytelling mode for them anyway, and just a impression of a dashboard, right? I mean, even if half of it is blurred out, doesn't matter. It's like, hey, I built this, but then do more of the story for them. So you'll say, yeah, this was the
Yes. Yeah.
challenge. This is what I built, and just it's just there as a placeholder almost. They're probably gonna look at it for a second, and that's it. And then you will talk about the results. So that's it for them. For the person who's savvy, who's Power BI folks, frankly, they don't need that much detail anyway. You tell them. Now, of course, for them, you would have a slightly different story. So for them, you would say something like, I don't know, like the data set was too large and it needed to be refreshed near real time. Therefore, we use this solution, and I use this, and I did this in query editor, and then I optimize in a SQL, something like that, right? So you would say it, and you don't have to explain the whole solution. They'll get it, and frankly, even if they don't get your solution, even if they get the problem, they'll see that, oh man, I mean, he's worked with some meaty stuff. So yeah, so I think they need less than what you think they need. Uh, uh, yeah, as long as yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about having everything kind of buttoned down and being able to share. Uh,
Sure. Sure.
yeah, yeah,
Actually, just one other thing I'll say, and again, just throw it out there. I think,
yeah,
again, this is probably within bigger organizations and staying within the sort of working for a company, staying within that sort of
yeah.
mindset. Certainly, my take on it is it helps if it's a much bigger company, as I said earlier, because you can actually you can stay within that field of Power BI. That's the first thing. But the second thing is this: is you know if you're really good with dashboards within Excel and pivot tables and all of that stuff, the fact that we can now, and I know you get it, but where you
Mm-hmm.
can analyze in Excel any data that you're taking out of Power BI, that gives you scope to sort of do other interesting stuff within the Excel um, um, set as well, if that makes sense.
Uh, say that again. Tell me more.
Sure. So I think if you're staying within the company environment, you're
Mm-hmm.
not just limited, I'm saying, to Power BI, because with Power BI, particularly with
Yeah.
big data, then being able to extract that sort
Mm-hmm.
of whatever it is, 30,000 lines or 150,000 lines of data, and set things up and talk people through how they might sort of, pivot table that and what dashboards and charts they may want to use within Excel. That it lends itself to you actually doing more of that in addition to Power BI.
Um. Yeah. uh, uh, you know. Yeah. I mean, I've seen different kind of profiles. Sure. So I come from an Excel background, so I was always combining Excel with Power BI, and I love that. A lot of business Excel is kind of the poor man's BI tool, right? I mean, everybody use that. All business users use that. So it's a great entry point. You go in there, and mostly they already use Excel. And of course, it's it's a very flexible tool, but that's also the drawback. So they have some challenges, and you can come in and you can kind of solve it for them. So that's my profile. I've seen some others where they combine Power BI with a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So I mean, it could be SQL, it could be SharePoint, it could be somebody who's kind of expert in ERP systems and something else, and on and on and on, right? So I think based on your background, you can kind of combine it with something else. Now, of course, it's going to be your choice as a professional as to. So I think in this day and age, if you are kind of a techie or a business slash techie person, which is what I like to be kind of kind of business plus techie. You're gonna have an arsenal of a few different tools, but I feel like you gotta have one hammer, one hard hitting stuff which you own. For me, that's clearly Power BI, right? So everything else, I know a little bit of SQL. I don't know R yet, but I do know other systems and this that I can work with them. But Power BI is my hammer. I have seen other professionals where Power BI is an add-on, like they're an expert in something else, and they use Power BI to kind of augment that. That's fair, but of course that's a different profile in my mind. Mm, I mean, if you ask me, I don't think you can go wrong with making Power BI kind of the mainstay. Coming back to Excel, um, that one is slightly tricky because it seems to get undervalued, and I'm not trying to throw Excel under the bus, but um, yeah, I don't know. I have this feeling that um, tagging along Power BI to Excel, it's almost like the business person whom you're helping would appreciate it, but above that, kind of the management levels, it's hard to get traction. So frankly, I generally, even when I'm consulting, I don't try to tie Power BI to Excel. Um, when I'm
So
talking to them,
um,
I just focus on it separately.
oh, totally. And I actually meant tagging on Excel to Power BI. Power BI is the foundation stone.
Yeah,
Excel is just like an add-on, but
yeah,
can at times I think be quite a useful add-on. But
yeah,
I take on board what you said. Really, I do.
yeah, yeah. In fact, now that you said it that way, um, it may be best to yeah. I mean, focus on the problems and speak in those terms than a tool. Like I mean, I obviously mentioned Power BI, but I try not to paint Excel as the bad guy. Anyway, all right. I think I'm not saying you're saying that, but I just wanted to kind of call that out.
Totally get it. That said, listen, I'll let other people talk, but listen,
Yeah.
nice chatting with you again, Avi.
Terrific. Thank you, man. So, yeah, there was some dissent on big versus small company, and I want to talk about that as well. And I think it's a trade off. So, big company, what is the general idea there? That there will be lots of opportunities. There could be a lot of work. And I was at Microsoft. Now, my team was small. When it comes to Microsoft teams, it was about 300 people. So in a way, I worked in a small organization. Um, but boy, they had enough work to keep me busy. But even if you were working with a bigger organization, I've worked with lots of clients, NASA, Columbia, and so forth. Um, sure, they may have more work, but again, it's a trade-off. So they also have a whole bunch of red tape at times. Not always, but sometimes, and it just things move a little slower. You gotta kind of follow the process and follow the chain of command or whatever stuff like that. Small company, uh, they you can move really fast, and of course, when we're talking about small, we can throw in kind of medium-sized companies too, and yeah, we have some in our class, and I've seen amazing progress. So I'll cite one of my favorite stories. I was teaching a Power BI class at a healthcare company, and there was this one student who just stood out. He was just I mean, just he just got it right. So everything that I was kind of talking about, like, oh yeah, I got it, got it, got it. And then I stayed in touch with him over the next several months, and he was clearly frustrated, and he was like, oh, I'm trying to do this, and IT is not giving me access, and this and that, and all of that sort of. So we exchanged a few emails like that, and then he sent some email, and he sounded really happy. And I said, dude, what happened? Did something change? And he said, oh yeah, I started freelancing for this other healthcare company. So kind of took that on as a second job, and I'm having a great time. And I said, what do you think is the biggest difference from here to there? And he said, it's amazing how much you can get done if you get out of your own damn way. So that is the biggest problem with big companies. They can't get out of their own damn way. And small companies, yeah, the ones who get it, they know how to do that. All right, cool. All right, my friends, let's what is it? It's close to midnight here. So Jen, thanks for chiming in. I can't find my mouse. Um, yeah, so Jen is saying I'm not doing consulting, but yeah, she feels like this is working well. Yep, and we definitely have examples of small, medium companies inside our class. Power BI is less forgiving than Excel. Ooh, there's a lot backed in that. Mm, Power BI is less forgiving than Excel. I would agree with that, but that is because Power BI is a whole lot more giving than Excel. So you do have to, you can't kind of the cowboy mentality. So Excel, hey, I was an Excel guy, still am. You know that saying that you can take a man out of the army, you can't take the army out of the man, that kind of thing. So a part of me is still like, roll up your sleeves and just get it done, right? I mean, that's what Excel was about, just get it done, right? I mean, oh yeah, I mean, you crunch all these formulas and this refers to that, and like, oh boom, yeah, it just worked. And of course, when it came to refreshing it or changing it or anything like that, so debugging it was a nightmare, right? So it wasn't perfect, but it was very flexible. You could kind of almost make everything work, and there were no real concepts that I felt like I had to learn. I mean, it's really simple stuff like, oh yeah, this is how you refer to a cell, array formulas, some fancy stuff maybe, right? VBA, blah blah, whatever. But there was no, I never thought about a data model. But now when I look back into Excel, I realize what I was doing. So what I was doing was here. I was doing this in. I was still doing the same things, not knowing that I'm doing it. But I was oh gosh, how do I put it? I was still doing ETL of my data, right? Extract, transform, load, which now we do using the query editor. I was still creating a model, although in Excel the model could look weird. It could be a table, it could be a bunch of formulas, which is now our Power BI model, which is essentially, what is it? It is essentially relationships plus DAX measures, right? So, and then I was creating visualizations, which is kind of Power BI report elements. And the thing is that all of this was squished together almost where you couldn't tell one from the other. Seriously, and gosh, it's crazy. I look at my old stuff and like, what was I doing? But in Power BI, you these are kind of separate. You think about them separately. There is more discipline. You can't help it. You can't mash it together. You're gonna have to say, no, no, no. This is the query editor. This is the kitchen of Power BI. This is where I do my data cleanup. I'm not going to do it in DAX because that's not good practice. That's not the right way to do it. I could, so you can bend some rules in Power BI, but inevitably it lands you in trouble, right? So you gotta do it the right way. So you go to your kitchen. That's where you clean up. Your query editor. Then you bring it in Power BI. You got to set up your relationships. And where do you build your model, your relationship diagram? You don't build it in Power BI. You draw it on a piece of paper, a whiteboard. That's the only way to do it. And then you bring it to life. You create it in Power BI, but you should have it on a piece of paper, because then you're thinking like a data model. You're not thinking the way the data is coming in. You think, no, I mean, this is my data table, this is the business process, this is a who, what, where, when, how, and so forth, right? So I agree, but of course the result is fantastic. Oh my gosh, it just blows you away. It's just old world and new world. You can't compare. I remember a case where we built, I think it took like 2 or 3 days to build a solution for a healthcare company again. So this was a consulting gig, and we built everything, and it was hooked up to their source data. And I said, yeah, you just drop in your new data when it refreshes every month. I think they were working with Nielsen data, which came in every month, and then you hit refresh, and you're done. And the person didn't get it, and they said, no, 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 wait. So I'm gonna copy this Power BI file for the new month and then put the file in. I'm like, no, 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 you're not gonna copy it. This is just one model, and this is gonna track all of your months from now, past, and future. And he didn't get it. He was like, he's like, no. He was so used to, you kind of create a copy for the new month, and then you do this, and then you do that, and then you do 1,000 little other things, and it becomes a death by 1,000 cuts. So I'm gonna frame down on my wall. How about that, huh? Who is that? I want to make sure I give credit. Arthur. Okay, Arthur. I think that's the right way to say it, right? Okay. Power BI is less forgiving but more giving. Um, okay, how did it um license also less PowerBIPro license. Well, Power BI and Tableau are apples and oranges, my friend. They're not, they're not. Power BI is not a visualization tool. It's a data modeling tool. That's its core strength. Tableau does not do data modeling, so it's you can't really compare. There's no comparison. What you want to do, what organizations need to do, is use a tool to create a data model. And once you have your data model, then you can connect any visualization tool to that. Now, Power BI, one of the functions of Power BI is that it is a visualization tool as well. But once you have your data model, then you can connect Power BI, Tableau, SSRS, heck, Click, Domo. I don't really care what you connect. Um, but the data model is what drives everything, and that is the core strength of Power BI. That is what Power BI is about. So yeah, Power BI and Tableau. Most organizations are gonna have multiple visualizations tools, because different tools will make sense for different needs, for different groups, and they exist. That exists even right now. You go to a lot of Tableau shops and you go over and talk to the finance folks. Guess what they're using? They're using Excel often as a visualization tool. A lot of them are using Power BI now, right? So, and if you go to Microsoft shops, it's not uncommon to find some heavy duty analysts who are using Tableau, because Tableau is a great visualization tool, but it's not a data modeling tool. All right, so yeah, not by a far cry. I know there's Tableau, there's this new Tableau Prep and all that stuff, but it doesn't hold a candle to what Power BI can do. So no contest there. It's a great tool. I love Tableau. By all means, everybody should use it. But and yeah, it's just apples and oranges. Power BI, Power BI. Likes it. All right, folks. Cool. Love it. So I want to thank everybody who joined in. Let's see how is uh I'm gonna wait just a bit to see if anything new pops up. Rochelle had something interesting to share. She's saying, I've seen job posting asking for Tableau certification, but I've never seen that for MS Power BI. Mm, Well, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Tableau certification. Maybe for starter jobs, if you're just kind of starting out, then maybe certifications is could help. But again, it's a cost. It's a cost of it's an opportunity cost, which is if you're going to spend X number of hours getting your certifications, could you do something else with those same hours? Well, frankly, if you have a choice between getting a certification and getting working on a real Power BI project, I would take the real Power BI project any day. But if you don't have that choice, then maybe you can go for certification. Or of course, if you already have worked on real Power BI projects and you think the certification can give you an edge, by all means go for it. All right, folks, I will call it a day. We will catch you. Oh, so we don't have a Talk Power BI scheduled for this year, I think. So it's likely, I'm going to see you in the new year. I will share as a last piece of advice. I'll share what I shared with my class yesterday, which is end the year strong. All right, this time is crucial. End of the year is always a great time to introspect a bit, right? I mean, really go inside and evaluate like what am I about? What are my values? What are my goals in life? Um, where am I headed? What's important for me? All that sort of big questions. I love asking them around this time, and of course the best part is that you can do that, and in fact it's better to do that surrounded by loved ones. So I feel lucky that I got to take a month off and spend time here with my parents in Delhi, India. I'll be flying back actually on December 31st to back to Seattle. So I'll be there in the new year. So spend time with your loved ones for sure. But any progress that you can make, any tangible progress that you can make to whatever your goals were for 2018, the year isn't done yet, right? So whatever those goals were, just give it one big push because there is still time. And of course, set yourself up for success for the new year. And of course, as I shared earlier, we're going to be doing a lot of new, cool, and exciting stuff inside the Learn Power BI community. Of course, we're going to be hanging out in the YouTube channel. You know what? Let me just bring up that slide for one last time, which is this one right here. So of course, YouTube, we're always going to be around here, talk Power BI pretty much every Friday that we can. Learn Power BI courses there, but yeah, we're going to be focusing more on the real Power BI projects and see how we can scale it. Not do two projects in 4 months as we have done in the past, but how can we do five a month? How can we have the class, the community, the students crank out five a month? And yeah, I'm imagining they're going to have like a 10-minute presentation. So we'll do one talk Power BI, and all of it is going to be like a real Power BI project presentation, like 10 minutes. Hey, this is what I did, and so forth. And you can put that on, use that in an interview, right? And of course, the beta program, the six-figure Power BI consultant. So new and exciting things for 2019. I wish you the best for the rest of the year, and I'll see you in 2019. Power on, my friends.